time. So on behalf of the City of Tehachapi, I'd like to welcome everyone to our community room in our Tehachapi Police Department. A couple of housekeeping notes. We have the restrooms out here if you need to use them. If you'd like to take a phone call, please don't take it in the hallway there. Our dispatchers are working. Just go ahead and step outside here. I just want to welcome everybody. We can get started. On behalf of the city, we're really happy to have you.
I forgot you were a councilman. I've known you too long.
Great. Well, I'll start here. Richard Chapman, Kern Economic Development Corporation.
Karen Macedonio, Cal City, J-Con council member.
Justin Powers, Kern River Valley. I represent Kernville Co.
I'm just a visitor from Kentucky. Thank you all.
And Tammy is a visitor visiting me. She's a friend of mine from out east. I'm Jeremy Woods. I run most of the entrepreneurship program at Cal State Bakersfield, and have a brand new organization called Aerospace Valley Futures that some of you know about, others don't. It's organizing nightlife and weekend activities out in the desert, and doing a lot on the business side to work on tech transfer, helping the Air Force and the Navy to license for their portfolio to manufacturers across the country. So that's me.
Hi, Corey Costello, Economic Development Coordinator and Assistant to the City Manager here in the City of Tehachapi. Welcome.
Dave Janis from Ridgecrest and the China Lake Alliance, supporting the base in the community, obviously, as education, advocacy, and also for Ridgecrest.
I'm Megan McKenzie. I'm the Administrative Analyst for the City of Ridgecrest.
Hi everyone, I'm Eric Bruin. I'm the newly elected mayor for the City of Ridgecrest. Thank you for the opportunity to be out here and to get to know everyone.
I'm Joe Brennan. I work for Kern County Supervisor Philip Peters in District 1. Ready to meet everybody. If I don't know you, let's fix that.
I'm John Joyce, representing Roseman, and my business is the Roseman News.
Zach Scrivner, Second District Supervisor, Kern County.
Hi everyone, I'm the Director of Community Wellbeing for Adventist Health, Bakersfield, and Tehachapi.
Susan Wiggins, Tehachapi City Council.
I'm Andy Hauser. I'm doing a day in the life of Christina Scrivner from Sonora.
She's really hard up for entertainment. I invited Andy. She's my counterpart in Sonora, and so when I got started in this work, I went to some of our hospitals and I encouraged her to do the same, and she took me up on it. So she's loving Tehachapi and remarking on what an amazing community is. So as your local city council member, I want that on video, and we're going to tell everybody. Christina Scrivner, Adventist Health, Tehachapi Valley, and your local city council.
Lydia Cheney, Greater Tehachapi Economic Development Council, and South Street Digital.
Good afternoon, Laura Lynn Wyatt, Field Representative for Kern County Supervisor Zach Scrivner's office, and a board member of Greater Tehachapi Economic Development.
Good afternoon, Edward Martin, Adventist South Tehachapi Valley. I'm the Administrative Director of Operations.
I didn't even know this existed, but no. Matt Chartier, Edwards Air Force Base. I'm the SVP, the Small Business Professional, and I'm here to help you guys in any way, shape, or form.
Sophia Livingston, Common Sense Consulting.
Russell Johnson, Common Sense Consultant. Happy to be here.
Frank Laura, Senior Project Development Manager for True North Renewable Energy. Appreciate you having me.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jay Lacey, Southern California Edison, Economic Development Consultant.
I'm Ashley Cortez. I'm with Waste Management.
Cal Rossi, Southern California Edison.
Mary Beth Garrison, Rio Tinto US Forex, and a member of the Greater Tehachapi EDC.
Whoops, sorry. Claudia Elliott. I'm happy to have just moved back to Tehachapi after being away for 6 years. And I'm freelancing for the Tehachapi News.
Nice.
Hi.
Beth Duty with the Loop newspaper.
Great. I think it's time for our host city's update, City of Tehachapi.
Sure. I've got the people. There's also someone in this room if anyone else needs some. All right. Welcome again. Thanks so much for joining us. Glad to be back to see you all here in person. Key Budge, our communications specialist, just walked in the door. So Key's also one of the.
That was a parade wave.
He's the co-host and producer of our Tehachapi podcast. So anyway, he's the guy who makes the magic happen. Want to start with housing. This is kind of a big issue, and everybody's got some building going on and probably not as much as that's needed. So we're kind of in this weird, Tehachapi's always sort of behind the booms a little bit. And so I think we're sort of starting to hit our stride, so to speak, when it comes to housing development. We did just have approved by the city council on Monday night, the second adoption of the ordinance, which created the plan development for Sage Ranch, which is a project right over here, about 1,000 units, residential community, master plan community, HOA, the whole nine, different housing types from townhomes to little cottages to full single-family homes. So that was approved by the council, and so they are starting the process of that project. It's been a while, been about 3 years since they kind of came to the city. It's been a lot to work through. But there's a lot of things that happened in the last sort of boom cycle where developers went and got maps entitled and then they didn't build. Well, now a lot of people are coming to the table saying, I just bought this map, and the good news is their sort of red tape, so to speak, to build is a lot shorter because it was already entitled, most of the work's been done. So right out here at the end of Robinson and Holly Street, there's 25 lots in engineering. Those will be probably moving there shortly. Applewood Estates, this was an old defunct neighborhood HOA from the 1980s, was actually built out by a new home builder, and they pretty much built out that development with about a 35-unit condo complex they're still looking to put in. But they've done a nice job in revitalizing that neighborhood because it was kind of ones and twos everywhere, and they've done a great job really making that area nice. Hickory and Pinions, another map that was picked up, 18 homes. There's another map on Cherry Lane that was 125 or so homes, purchased by another developer. He's going through the engineering process. Alta Estates, some of you are familiar with that, right up Curry Street, which runs out here. The north half was built out a couple years ago, finally, but a lot of mass grading was done many years ago on the southern half, about 250 lots. So we do have a big developer who's come in, and I say big, he's from the Central Valley, and so they're going to Planning Commission on Monday. Cahill Banyan Homes is coming in. They purchased 55 with first right of refusal for another 60. And so again, they just need to finish building the streets and they can start building homes, and they build a really nice product. So they're coming in as well. And then the address at Tehachapi, this was approved months ago. They're in the engineering, their master plan community at Tucker Highline, 250 units, kind of higher end on the price scale, 600,000 or so. HOA, that whole deal. So a lot of that finally kind of coming, and the beauty is we have different housing types.
How many, so all those numbers added together, how many units is that? I mean, how many homes?
Well, if you count Sage, and Sage is, I think when people hear 1,000, they go, oh, that's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be over 7 years probably. So, without Sage, you're looking at just under 700.
Wow.
With Sage, 1,500, 1,600 when it's all said and done.
Excellent.
But there's a what's actually going to build probably soon. A couple hundred will be moving a lot quicker than the others just because of the size of the project. So, and they're all like different types, different price points. That'll help lower the demand for inventory here and lower the prices as well for some of the older stuff. On the business side, Valley Strong Credit Union along Tehachapi Boulevard opened up their new branch. Beautiful job. They've been in the market for a while. They wanted their own standalone. They bought a Walmart out parcel, built a beautiful branch. That was open on the 23rd. Great facility and another gem of the Walmart shopping center. Speaking of which, Roundtable Pizza is going to open in the next month or so. They're waiting on a fire department inspection and a few other things from us. So they took over an old restaurant on that sort of corner as well. So we really figured when Walmart came, that would really get that corner and some of the vacancies filled, and it certainly has. Chipotle also is in engineering for a pad in that shopping center too, and they've already been approved and they're going through engineering work right now. Town Place Suites by Marriott, still under construction across the other side of the 58, working towards the December opening. That's 85 rooms. And the Village Collective, we talked about in this meeting in the past. Downtown, it's a renovated project by Buddy and Nikki Cummings. They've taken an old thrift store and turned into what's going to be co-working, plus office space, plus a cafe, a rentable studio space, what about the size of this? Rentable studio space for yoga instructors, aerobics, whoever people have their own businesses want a little bit of more of a gathering spot. So they are working towards that. It's looking awesome. The architecture alone is a big boost for downtown. And then Adventist Health has their imaging pavilion. How close, Edward-ish? Christina, you guys?
I just walked through it today, and we are really excited about October. We'll be able to see patients Some of the walkways and things that will make it fully complete won't be done until the end of the year, but we're most excited about being able to serve patients in that space in October.
And like, we have like Hubble Space Telescope quality MRI.
We
right?
do. We have
What's the language? I don't know.
we have big hospitals that are jealous of our technology. We've got a really advanced MRI, first ever MRI in Tehachapi, and 124 slice CT. We currently have a 16 slice CT.
There we go.
So,
and that's a big boost to everybody who utilize the hospital, not just Tehachapi, Mojave, California City. A lot of folks who go and use that hospital. So it'd be great to have more services closer than Bakersfield or the Antelope Valley. I wanted to talk real quick. The city of Tehachapi has worked with, a couple months ago, we jumped on board with Placer AI. It's an artificial intelligence platform that effectively tracks your cell phone. It is what it is. No, we don't track it. And there's no idea who it is, but your phone, every app you have has a little thing, it pings a cell tower, and these companies mine the data. So we know where people are shopping. We know when people have visited the city based on a geofence or a business. And it's very valuable for us to understand a lot of things in terms of smart city, how to react to traffic, how to also understand trends, how to get demographic information for potential businesses that come in. They want to see traffic flow at certain intersections. We can give them time of day, peaks, that kind of stuff. So we found, though, that they did a tourism recovery where they did visits compared to 2 years ago in 2019. And so 2021, the Tehachapi region has recovered at 190% of 2019. So it's up 9-10% in tourism, which is good. So it was a really good summer. And that didn't even count some of our bigger events that just happened in the last few weeks. But on terms of the retail, we have, that's really helped to see who we really are in terms of trade area. And in the last 12 months, our Walmart store, 79% of those customers that have come through the door have been from outside the 93561 zip code. Now, these are sometimes the one-off people that are getting off the highway on the way to Vegas and they forgot something and they're stopping at Walmart. There's also a lot of regular shoppers. So we had 186 total customers, meaning 186,000 total customers. 149,000 of those from outside this zip code in the last 12 months. Each customer visited an average of 9 times. So that shows this is a regular shopping destination for most people. We had a total of 1.7 million visits to that store, so trips to the door. The top zip codes outside of Tehachapi, all the combined, I think there was 10 Bakersfield zip codes. That made up about 8.9%, so about 16,000 of those customers. California City makes up 6.3% of those customers, so about 11,700 customers. Roseman 3%, Mojave 2%. The Lancaster zip codes combined at 5%, and then 2% out of Arvin and Lamont as well. And so this is just Walmart alone, not counting Home Depot, a few others. But we're also seeing those folks, they're here, and then we also know where they go afterwards. So they're going to Conan's, they're going to other restaurants, so there's money being spent, because the last thing you want to do when you go to Walmart and buy groceries is just go home and cook, right? You want to get food on the way home. So that's happening too. So we're seeing that sort of economic impact, the dollar being stretched further in the community through the outside spending. So anyway, just it's a great program. We like to use it, and we're seeing our trade area really increase from East Kern based on these new retail offerings that we have. So that is it. Thank you so much.
I know we have Frank Laura is going to present about their company's project in East Kern, proposed project. And from time to time during East Kern Economic Alliance meeting, we have project updates. I think it's really important. And so any other projects in the future, please bring to our attention. But I know Russell Johnson has been involved with East Kern Economic Alliance. And I don't know all your titles, former city council member, right, at Bakersfield.
Professional troublemaker.
Okay. But, and then we've been working, I think Melinda on my staff has been working with the company for about 8 to 9 months, if I'm not mistaken. So take it away.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Richard, and thanks so much to everyone here to have me. I do see some familiar faces, I think, from the Mojave Chamber of Commerce meeting and some of the other outreach events that we've had a chance to put together. So appreciate you learning a little bit about this project. So. My background, I've actually lived here in Bakersfield for about the past 18 years, working in the natural gas industry, both for California Resources Corporation as well as SoCal Gas. Had a chance to really work a lot of different renewable energy projects in the industrial sector, mainly over in West Kern. Really excited to have a chance to kind of work on my first one over in Eastern Kern. So some of you may be familiar with Senate Bill 1383. It is some bad news that Sacramento is kind of passing down some additional legislative mandates on everybody. But I think the good news is we're going to have a local facility here that will allow everyone to comply with the new law. So our ownership team has actually been in the organic space now for about 10 years. We own several composting facilities here in California, as well as several anaerobic digestion facilities across the U.S. They recently sold those facilities about 2 years ago. We really developed this new concept, which I'm going to chat with you here about today. So when it comes to organics management, there's really a lot of different solutions that are out there. Kind of on the lower end, you have the chip and grind facilities. You have your traditional windrow composting. You have kind of your newer aerated static pile type composting, low solids AD. Really the type of solution that we are interested in is the high solids AD facility. And really the reason is the versatility is really the highest level of technology out there on the market today. And so here we'll share with you a little bit more. In terms of how the facility works, when the trucks come into the facility, they actually weigh in and weigh out. And then they pull up to a fully enclosed receiving building where they go ahead and tip their materials. Then there's a pre-processing facility there where they'll actually go ahead and remove all the contaminants, the glass, the metal, the plastics. They'll shred that material, put it into a digester where it's going to sit for about 3 weeks. There it's going to produce biogas, which we'll go ahead and collect and clean up and inject into the pipeline. And then on the back side, the digestate will come out. We'll take that digestate and we'll compost it to produce organic soil amendment for the agricultural industry. So the composting operation that we have, really when the material is mainly green in composition, we'll go ahead and do that outside on aerated concrete pads. However, once that food content starts to increase, what we'll do is we'll actually do that indoors through something called in-vessel composting. There we do it fully enclosed. We're monitoring temperature, airflow, other types of things. We're actually capturing that air, treating it through biofilters before we discharge it to the atmosphere. Really managing a lot of these organics facilities, we've really learned that controlling odors is one of the key things to be And so, we want to be around for 20 or 30 years. And so that's where we've really implemented this, high level of technology. Our site is right off of United Street and Silver Green Road, right next to the Rosemont Sanitary Landfill. So we actually purchased about 120 acres out there. And so our development will actually take place on about 40 acres. And so we have a nice buffer around us. We're in the heavy industrial zone over there. I know the landfill has a large expansion project coming out as well here in 2027. And so, we think this is a very, very good kind of place for this type of facility. And we're actually hoping to, divert some of that refuse and trash from going to the landfill to actually our facility where we can turn those organics into renewable materials. So in terms of utilities, SoCal Edison actually has a 66 kV line that we're looking at tying into right there along United Street. SoCal Gas actually has a pipeline right next to us as well. However, about 2.5 miles north, PG&E as well as Kinder Morgan both have 36-inch diameter pipelines as well. So that's another part of the reason we kind of chose this location, was really just access to that renewable natural gas and the pipelines that are out there. So in terms of where we're at, in terms of the process here, we have purchased this site. We're actually going through the permitting process right now. About 3 weeks ago, we've been working with QK. We submitted all of our conditional use permit applications to Kern County Planning, and so we're just waiting on a date now to go in front of the Planning Commission where we can go ahead and present our project to them. In terms of what our permitting path is forward is, we'll also have to go through a general plan amendment as well as a specific plan amendment, and so we're hoping to get in front of the Board of Supervisors for Kern County towards the end of this year. So in terms of processing capacity for this type of facility, it's really designed to process up to about 300,000 tons a year. So Kern County itself has about 250,000 tons per year of organics. So it have the ability to process all of those. Kern County Public Works is actually kind of reserved about, or will have access to at least 30,000 tons per year of this, which would probably be enough capacity, I would think, for all the material over in Eastern Kern.
How does the material come to you?
Trucks.
So,
Large
regular
transfer
refuse?
trucks were really kind of designed for 25-ton type transfer trucks that would come in. So generally speaking, you know, a collection truck would go to a transfer station there, they would collate all the material, maybe pull out some of the larger types of contamination, load them into a large semi-truck, which would then be shipped to our facility.
Interesting.
Can it be mixed with food and coming in, or does it have to be segregated?
No, that's a great question, actually. That's really the benefit of this type of facility is that because it's a high solids AD, it can process 100% green waste, 100% food waste, and any combination of the two. So I know a lot of the cities and counties want to go to commingled collection where the residents put their food scraps into the green bin and then we pick it up together. We'll take that. We can take up to about 20% contamination as well. So if people want to put the food scraps in a plastic bag, put it in your green bin, we'll have what's called a depackager. It'll go ahead and slice that bag open so we have access to the organics and remove it from the waste.
We do accept bags, because that's a big thing at different facilities. Some are like no bags at all, and then some. So.
Right, we can take bags, yes.
And I want to just talk about, just to kind of get folks up to speed on, 1383 essentially requires every household in California, city, whatever, is going to be forcing a third bin on you, which will not only just be your green waste, like your yard clippings, but like food scraps and everything is supposed to go in. And then we're held accountable for the amount of diversion that we are supposed to keep out of the landfill, and so we have to track all this stuff. So it's not like now where it's like, oh yeah, I'll throw my stuff in a like it's going to be and a third bin here really shortly.
Yeah, and the other piece of that legislation is procurement requirement. So, you know, cities, counties have to buy renewable natural gas, or they have to purchase mulch or compost. And so we have the ability to sell any of those. We can actually sell the natural gas through the pipeline system, fairly simple to do, as well as, you know, the compost. Typically, to the local community, we offer that free of charge. So if residents want to come up, bring a truck, a trailer, something like that, go ahead and we'll load you up for free for your gardening type projects or a community garden. You know, that's just a benefit to the community we like to offer as well. So certainly some opportunities to comply with that side of the regulations as well. So some of the environmental benefits, I mentioned producing renewable natural gas. That's equivalent to about 4 million gallons of diesel fuel a year, which we'll produce. Organic compost, 120,000 tons a year, where with all these new organic diversions, the question is, where's all the compost got to go? And so, you know, there's only so many residential backyard gardens that people have, and so that's why we like to be adjacent to agricultural communities, because, you know, that's obviously the growth sector, I think, in the ag community is the organics market, and so that gives us a great offtake for that compost and keeps us just from producing mountains of compost, which we don't want to do. We want to be able to put it to use and move it. So, reducing pollutants as well. You know, 80,000 metric tons of CO2, reducing greenhouse gases, which is about the equivalent of moving 17,000 passenger vehicles off the road. We actually have a negative carbon intensity, which is kind of a value for the California Resources Board low carbon fuel standard, and so we are negative, meaning that we are taking more carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere than we are, you know, putting into it. So on top of that, there's also the economic benefits. You know, investing here in Eastern Kern, $150 million, that's the capital investment required for this type of facility. We'll create anywhere between 20 and 25 full-time permanent green jobs. And also during construction, we'll have up to 300 construction folks on site during that time. And most of those jobs are all going to be local as well. So, you know, really when it comes to the folks that we have, you know, really we have a wide gamut of skill sets that we need to hire for, you know, plant managers, operations supervisors, but also laborers, plant operators, mechanics, welders, electricians, instrumentation specialists. So a fairly wide range of, you know, skilled laborers locally out there. And so really that's kind of the end of my presentation. Just wanted to kind of give you an overview of the project and see if there's any questions or comments on it.
Frank, do you have, is there an best practice of this type of facility that's been in operation now, be it California or
Yeah, that's a great question, Richard. And so these types of facilities have been commonplace in Europe over the past 20, 30 years. Actually, about half of our team lives in Switzerland, and they've been developing these all across the world. California has recently started to adopt these types of facilities. The first one was over in San Luis Obispo with Waste Connections. That was done in about 2018. CR&R put one in down in Riverside in probably 2020. And then there's one being actually commissioned right now with EDCO down in Escondido. So we hope this will be the fourth one here in California.
Will you be taking waste from LA County?
This will be a regional facility, and so,
yes.
We're going to prioritize the Kern County volumes, and then if there's not, or they have other options or other demand, then we'll go ahead and open it up to out-of-county material.
Versus radioactive sludge, you mean?
I didn't say that.
Projected date of
2025.
Oh.
But these projects take a lot of engineering and lead time and permitting, and once we get done with our local permitting, then we have to go to the Regional Water Quality Control Board, the Air District, the Cal Recycle for a solid waste facility permit. So these facilities are very highly regulated. So, yes.
So I know that like the SB 133 requirements, a lot of them kick in 2022. So since there's a projected date of opening in 2025, is there any way that we could make potential, future plans to help meet the compliance for SB 1383, or would that be? Does that make sense?
No, I think the way that 1383 is that it's sort of being, scaled in and scaled up, and that's kind of what we see with the feedstock as well, where, the feedstock that's out there is mainly green with maybe a little bit of food, but we anticipate as enforcement begins and education and outreach happens, that food content is going to significantly increase, but that's not, it's not like anyone's going to throw a light switch and all this material hits. It's going to be sort of a transition. So.
And for compliance, I mean, what we did is because our council actually sent a letter to the Cal Recycle pointing out that they had their own act of God vision in their regulations. And we said, well, we're not going to raise rates right after COVID on people, especially as significant as this is going to cost. And so they actually changed the regulations, and actually SB 619 is in the Assembly or Senate right now that basically would delay any enforcement for another couple of years. So our game plan, I was speaking with Cal Recycle, is to start the low-hanging fruit, food rescue programs, education outreach, adopt your ordinances, and then we're not going to do probably curbside till 2023. So kind of taking advantage of their sort of phase in, as he was pointing out.
Well, and one option that we have is we've actually developed sort of this phase concept, because we're going to build AD with the composting at the same time. The anaerobic digestion is what takes a long time. You really need that when you have a high food content. We actually have a concept where we could actually build the composting first to be able to start accepting material for processing in a composting operation. And then so that'll be online accepting material in early 2023 as we're building the AD, which takes more time. And so, that's a concept. If the local community were interested in that, we could certainly, work with you on implementing that, because we're actually doing that elsewhere, where folks have, they need a quicker term solution, but it's mainly green waste with a little bit of food waste intertwined in there, and that's a potential form as well. Yeah, if there's no more questions, thank you very much.
The company's based in Scottsdale. That looks like a zero escape in Scottsdale. Is that true? Is that
Well, no, we actually our landscape architect did that for a project we were working on over in San Bernardino. Our site had a bunch of Joshua trees that we wanted to reuse and stuff like that. So that's where they came up with that kind of motif.
Was there rail next to that site when you showed the
no, I don't think so.
Obviously, you're not using rail, you said.
The site, we're not going to use rail. The site I was showing, it did have rail because the project we were working on was in Ventura.
Okay.
That one did have a Union Pacific line next to it. So.
Great.
Oh, no, turn it off, sorry.
Oh, that's it. Great, thank thanks for hosting us today, and excited to meet in person again. John is filming, so anybody that couldn't make it, I promise they're gonna have the video version, right? You're aren't you an Emmy-winning cinematographer or Oscar-winning? So I appreciate you filming the event today, and then I'll send out the presentations as well. So let's get started in terms of talking about where our economy's headed. Looking at the labor market data, we can pretty much see, I think this week the unemployment benefits run out. So we might see more people coming back into the workforce. You can see we're hovering around 10–11% unemployment. That's for the county. If you look at East Kern, it's actually lower by, I believe it's like looking kind of block level data, about 6 to 7%. That's really even lower than that, my understanding. But the question is, why our labor market number of employees is much lower than before COVID. We're going to have a serious issue, right, of workforce availability and quality. You hear restaurants, right, are closing or not opening, and so that's the question is, will they come back to work? And that's not just a local, but a really national issue. We always track job postings, so that doesn't mean that the jobs are being filled, but if you go to track the recovery, you can see that Bakersfield, which is the MSA, Kern County, we traditionally have been above the rest of the U.S. average in terms of job posting versus January 2020, pre-COVID. So that will be interesting to see how that changes through time. And actually, we were in the top in the country, number 1 or 2 for high wage job employment since January 2020. Growth in high wage jobs. A lot of those, of course, are in East Kern. And then Corey had talked about Placer AI. So this is just showing what percentage of our residents are out of the home. I guess they use that. This is from Google mobility reports. So interesting, right? You talk about shutdown and essential jobs. We have more essential jobs than any county in the country, about 67%. And we really are basically almost back to where we were pre-COVID. Even transportation, some people are arguing, well, look, our petroleum demand declined during COVID. Yeah, guess what? It's back to 97% of what it was demand, about 600 million barrels a year. So, but again, you can see that our pretty resilient economy during COVID because of those essential jobs. So I wanted to see AV Nation, actually we advertised, they did at the Oshkosh, if anyone's been to AirVenture, where they had 600,000 people this year, over 10,000 planes. So they did a profile on, speaking of, we're going to talk about internships, this gentleman that interned and then ended up getting a full-time job at Virgin Galactic. And pretty cool story. We actually, we thought it was a great, opportunity to promote, especially the aviation industry. And again, at Oshkosh, if anyone's been there for that show, and they're going to do a story, the next issue on 2, I believe, 13-year-old girls that built a plane in Bakersfield.
No, they're 14 anymore. They're probably 14.
Okay.
They were 13 when they started thinking about the story.
But, when they reached out to us saying, well, can you promote, advertise? We're like, okay, well, what do you know about East Kern? Because we're thinking, okay, AV Nation is geared to 8 to 24-year-olds, but we can never assume that people know our story, even though we have the amazing, right, we have Edwards, we have John Lake, Mojave, etc. But so the good news is they have more narrative about East Kern. And so in the next issue, I have actually copies of this issue, and we're excited when the next one comes out. But something that we think, they should be profiling East Kern more than they actually do. So I'll talk about energy, right? We have the programs, projects significant. We've had a real uptick in renewable manufacturing projects. And the key, I'm glad that your project has permanent, at least 20, 25 full-time jobs. That construction, wonderful, but we need the full-time jobs. I didn't ask what those pay, but are they pretty good pay levels?
Yeah, they're going to be market competitive.
Okay,
so yeah.
okay. So we have produced this about all types of energy. Of course, most people know the story, we hope, about oil and gas and that significant impact. Also through, of course, the renewable component. And so along those lines, we, Zach Scrivner is on our exec committee. We talked about how does our organization really discuss these issues, not just the economic impact, but the decision-making process. why is this industry, oil and gas, so important to go out the county? We have 17 out of the top 20 taxpayers. So we put this out. I'm not a graphic designer, but I gave them bullet points, really discussing how reliant the state is, right? Demand has not decreased on petroleum, except for last year, that was a blip. We're back up to where we were, but also the sources of oil. And we've gone from, in the 80s, about 5% foreign oil imports to now we're about 60%. And what really hit me was Alaska. Alaska was that third leg of the stool, but last year Alaska had the least amount of production in 40 years. And they had a significant project that was killed by a circuit court, ConocoPhillips. So that supply, people argue, actually is going to go towards zero over the next 10 to 20, 30 years. So what are our choices, right? Local production, that energy independence, or reliance on foreign oil? And I wrote an op-ed over the week. Hopefully you guys got a chance to see it. But we were talking about the geopolitical strategist, Peter Zion, says we're going to be paying $10 a gallon for gas within the next 2 years. We, meaning California, not the rest of the country, because we are an energy island. So these are things, but that the key is that process. Where do we take? This really struck me. It's not on here, but 16 large tankers create more pollution than all the world's cars. 16, that's it. What is it, a billion cars? And so, there was a study done by the Center for Biological Diversity. They talked about the carbon intensity of extraction here versus other countries. But what they didn't track or didn't factor in was transport of that product from Saudi Arabia to California. So, that's the point, is we need to, these facts I think are really important that people understand. And then this is what actually Peter did, is where's California's supply of oil come from? And apparently I didn't know there's a little from Alberta, but you can see, right, it's predominantly Latin American and Persian Gulf, and some from Africa, mainly Nigeria. And so this is something that I think is really important moving forward. I hope the policymakers of the state listen to this. Cal, are you shaking your head? Okay. But again, this is what we discussed. Folks aren't buying blood diamonds. It's a big controversy. I think Beyonce was wearing diamonds. So that's a blood diamond. How dare you buy it? But yeah, we're getting our majority of our power from countries that don't meet the environmental standards and human rights standards. So Energy Summit's coming up in November, in person. So we're excited. We already have record interest, sponsors. And we have the CEO of Air Energy will be speaking, as well as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Renewables. And we're like Oviat, and we're putting together the rest of the discussions, panelists, etc. That will be at the Marriott in Bakersfield on November the 10th. And we're excited to host that story of our, again, right, incredible energy diversity. A couple other things. Kite, this is through our partnership with Seed Corps Foundation, JP Lake. We had started meeting in person in 2019. We're looking forward to getting together again. We have upcoming, it's Entrepreneur Week. And it's going to be at the new C-Tech Center. If you haven't seen it in Bakersfield, Old River Road, $90 million center. They're going to be hosting us, and we're going to have a mini expo, basically entrepreneurs, service providers, and the like coming together. I know many of you in the room are involved with Kai, Jeremy, and Justin, and I'm sure others. So I think that's important. Remember, 90% of new jobs created in any economy are from firms less than a year old. And unfortunately, our firms, according to Kaufman Foundation, don't last as long as in other areas and don't pay as well, even though we're number 5 for job new startups. So this is really incumbent on us to say, how do we provide those resources to the new Kern Venture Group, et cetera. Exciting to have this, what Corey mentioned about the facility here with Nikki and Buddy, these gathering places where kind of meeting of the minds. And then we'll have, we have the panelists, this will be next week, but this guy, it'll have a fast pitch. We're looking for 1 or 2 companies. We have one out of Ridgecrest, one in Bakersfield. Basically, they do a 60 to 90 second fast pitch, and then they get that. They're not going to get money, but they're going to get recognition. So if anybody has a company that they can think of, a startup type or micro enterprise, let us know. And we'll have a copy. I'm one of the panel members, but we kind of have that 60 to 90 second. Just tell us what, I don't know how long Shark Tank, how long are those presentations? Probably not as long. And it'll be virtual. The Career Expo, or the Expo, I talked about the last slide, that's in person. Again, 4 to 6:30. This will be virtual. So please let me know if you have a potential candidate. And then our foundation, actually a board meeting tomorrow, Christina Scrivner is on our board, or in person. So we're excited again to be able to meet, and like today's meeting. But the foundation was started about 12 years ago, and the mission really was about community education business, and it's really workforce. We talked about workforce, and what do site selectors look, what is the #1 issues? Workforce skills, right? Workforce availability. How can our foundation as a C3 weigh in? Well, the symposium we created 3-4 years ago was an overwhelming success. We had throughout the county, Greater Tehachapi EKEDC was a partner, and we're going to have that on April 22nd, 2022. Mark your calendars, and so that's going to be an exciting opportunity. Remember, we're #4 in the country for STEM jobs, Kern County, but 10% of our high-level STEM jobs are unfilled. So it's really an issue of talent retention, much like how do we get our talent to stay here? We don't do very well, Kern County, in retaining our talent. Attracting is another story, but our first and foremost goal is to retain talent. Is the Career Catalyst Initiative, another important program we believe that the foundation can take the lead. So, and I've talked about this before, but kind of shocking information. I was always told GPA, said sure, I wish I'd known this later, earlier. But the #1 attribute is internships, paid internships that employers are looking for, right? They see that student has cut their teeth. Understand the work environment, a diploma is wonderful, but that doesn't mean they're going to be successful in the workplace. And actually, you can see 4 out of 5 of the top attributes are experience-based, not academics-based. So what we're going to do, this shows you why, again, unpaid internship, wonderful, but unless you pay, the rubber meets the road. What is that student paid? More accountability. So we're launching fall or late 2021, early 22, this initiative where we match basically employers and the students. It's not just 2- and 4-year degree students. We're talking to the 3 community colleges in the county, CSUB, but also ROC, the Voc Ed. There's the kids that have been working since they're 16. Incredible 42 programs at ROC. They've basically endorsed by their teachers. They're ready to go in the workplace. Maybe not get the degree yet, but who are we to say you're 18? Okay, got to go get your degree, or you work, or at least be enrolled. So we have those 3 cohorts: community college, 4-year, as well as the Voc Ed students. So we're working on creating this portal. Very user-friendly, where we can have the students sign up, and then we can have that matching with the talent matches with the employers. Because this is really, this is something where the value proposition's there, and this is really a critical talent retention tool. So again, Kern, go to the website, kernedc.com, sign up for the e-news, and thank you for your time today. Questions, comments? Great. I have to find out where the next East Kern Economic Alliance meeting is, but thank you again. I'm not sure, Kern County, if their next SBDC couldn't be here. Okay, well, you have District 1 and 2, but District 2, since Zach's here, Joe's yielding, said he's yielding the floor to you.
Try not to screw it up. All right. Well, first of all, thanks everybody. Appreciate getting to see everybody in person. It's good to be out together. Run down real quick. County budget. We passed that last week. Our county budget we start in June. but then we end up passing it sometime in August once we get an accurate calculation of all of our taxes and our carryover balances from the county departments, et cetera. So we adopted the budget on Tuesday. Some bright points in the budget: we're able to increase library hours, we're able to put even more money towards our low-cost spay and neuter efforts, which is reducing our pet population. So Kern County is maintaining its status as a no-kill facility, which means that 90% of the animals that come in leave alive, either to a new home or to foster, etc. Also, we were able to increase some funding for the district attorney's office, the sheriff's department, and all of our fire department positions are now funded, and so that means all the stations stay open with three people in every station. So those are all positives. On the negative side for the county budget, we only saw about a 0.9% growth in our revenue streams. Compare that to the 2.3% growth that we saw the year before. So what that tells you is that it's making it more and more difficult for the county to keep up with the cost of doing business. Our labor costs continue to go up. Retirements are still very expensive, healthcare, and also just the built-in cost of living increases that we see with county employees. One of the things that we were able to do in regard to our employees is we got an agreement with our probation department officers, the union that represents them. It's a 3-year deal. It includes some restructuring of the way in which the automatic increases happen. Instead of a 5-year scale, we're now to a 10-year scale with them. Also, we're able to use some of the federal relief dollars for a one-time bonus for them, and now that's been approved for all of the county employees. And so there's been some coverage in the paper about the bonuses for county employees, but if you look at the difference between approving raises and a one-time, it's the difference between a one-time cost and an ongoing cost. And so anybody who's in business knows that those ongoing costs are a lot more difficult than a one-time, and so that's what we did it for. We're not in a position, unfortunately, to be able to offer big cost of living increases for our employees, even though they haven't seen them in a long time. But this one-time bonus hopefully is something that we can use that's going to help us with that retention of the employees that we currently have. What's driving the issues with our budget? Well, we did see an increase in property taxes in residential and commercial and agricultural. That's been a trend that we've seen over the course of the last few years. Unfortunately, Sacramento and chiefly Governor Newsom's attack on our oil industry continues to drive down oil property tax revenues. And so that is a big hit to us, and that is going to continue to be an issue if Newsom has his way with trying to kill our oil industry altogether. Richard obviously touched on it very well, what oil means to us as far as economic development and where we would have to get our oil if we didn't get it from our domestic producers. Really what we're talking about is the county's ability to provide basic services, sheriff, fire, libraries, everything that you can think of, parks. But also, too, you're talking about 25,000 direct jobs in the county. You're talking about families that, this represents their way out of poverty. Kern County continues to be number 1, number 2, number 3 every time we look at that upward social mobility. So those are people who start at the bottom of the socioeconomic scale and are able to get into that middle class tier where they can buy a home, etc. The reason why Kern County can do that is because of oil jobs. These are jobs where, with a high school diploma, even if you're out of prison, whatever, you can be making $80,000 a year in the oil fields. There's no other industry like that you can find in Kern County, and I would argue that it'd be hard to find another industry like that anywhere in California. And so that's what drives that positivity for us. So what are we doing in order to fight what the governor is doing with his attacks on Kern County? We're going to be filing a lawsuit on the governor's denial of our fracking permits. Those are from Air Industry, and we had also other oil companies that have put these permits in. The lawsuit, the crux of it basically is that the governor, his action to deny those permits was unconstitutional. The reason being is that we obviously have the powers in this country between the legislative, the judicial, and the executive branches. The legislative branch is what sets the policies on how these permits are approved. They need to be approved if they meet all the technical criteria. The governor's office instead, through the CalGEM, which used to be the Division of Oil and Gas and Geothermal Resources, they are just denying these permits just on a blanket. They're unsafe for the environment, no specifics at all. And so our argument is that the governor didn't go through the right process. The legislature set the policy, the governor's going around those, and so therefore his actions are unconstitutional. that lawsuit will be filed here very shortly. The governor's attack on oil made us take a good look at what's going on in the solar industry in Kern County. You may have heard me talk about that a little bit before, but here's the crux of it. When you look at government's ability to provide basic services, the oil industry represents $80 million a year in revenue to the county of Kern. Also $100 million a year to school districts, and you add another $12 million for special districts. So it's a huge part of our ability to provide education, police, fire, libraries, roads, et cetera, throughout the county. And so when we look at developments that come to the county, when people want to invest in our county, one of the things that we want to look at as local government is what are the benefits for us as local government? How is this going to enhance our ability to provide those basic services? Because if you don't have those basic services, you don't have the quality of life that's going to attract more people to your region. Who wants to live in a county where we can't afford sheriff, fire, libraries, et cetera, and our schools are suffering? And so it's key for economic development for local government to be able to provide those kinds of services. And so when we look at the governor's attack on oil, you couple that with the fact that he continues to support this exemption for solar companies to pay property tax, it creates a big problem for Kern County. The governor says, hey, don't worry, if I kill the oil industry, you're going to have this new green energy economy. Well, Governor, if you're not allowing us to collect property tax, how on earth are we supposed to be able to sustain our local governments? And so the county, at my request, took a long look at that. We tasked the county administrative office, the planning department, and also the assessor to get together and figure out what are we missing out on because of this property tax exemption. And what it comes to is the tune of about $20 million a year in revenue to the county. So what we decided to do is, okay, well, if we're not going to be able to get the legislature to rescind this exemption, or at least not extend it past the 2024 sunset, then we have to come up with a local solution. And so that's what this cumulative impact charge that we're now looking at for renewable energy companies in Kern County. We had 10 that were already in the hopper. These had their power purchase agreements, they had their financing, all sorts of their business plans were already in place. And so we gave these 10 a one-time fee versus what we're planning on doing in the future, which would be an annual fee for them. And the other part of this solar equation that we've now been able to understand a lot better is the battery storage. You might have heard presentations from AES, which used to be S-Power, on their Raceway Solar project out in Rosamond. We continued that project over the course of a few weeks, so we would have time to be able to understand what are the local impacts of this and what are we going to receive as far as our ability to provide services for our communities. And so in taking that pause, we found out a couple things. First of all, that project was going to go on land that was owned by AVEC, the Antelope Valley East Kern Water District. That water district on that property was only paying $11,000 a year in property taxes. By converting it to solar, it kicked it up to $135,000 a year in property taxes. But the big kicker was requiring that company move those panels back from existing homes. With some of these solar projects that are coming forward, they're getting closer and closer to residential areas. And so the desire of me and others and our planning director is to push those projects back a little bit from what they originally proposed. So that was the second thing that changed on that project. The third thing is the battery storage. With the battery storage, that meant by them agreeing to move that from Los Angeles County into Kern County, it meant another $500,000 a year in property taxes for us. And so based on those changes, I voted to approve the project, and the rest of the board members voted along with me on my motion unanimously. And so we have another solar project that's coming up now in Boron. That one also has received pushback from residents because of the proximity to homes. Once again, through our work with the planning department, they have removed a lot of those panels and pushed those panels back a half a mile away from existing homes for a buffer. The other thing too is we're considering that project. It hasn't come to the board yet. It's going to be coming here in the next few weeks. It already went through the planning commission and was approved there. As we calculate, they're also doing battery storage. So we're calculating about $2 million a year in property taxes that would come from that project, in addition to about $2 million in one-time sales tax and $1.3 million in that cumulative impact charge that I talked about earlier. And so all that to say that basically we're taking a lot harder look at where we're permitting solar, and also how are we going to be able to realize for those communities and for the county as a whole the benefits of that project in light of the fact that the legislature has that property tax exclusion in place. Mary Beth, did you have your hand up?
I did. So when they went back half a mile, I mean, the community is still yammering that, you know, they're right next door. So hopefully someone can communicate that good.
Yeah.
But is the project smaller now in terms of megawatts?
Yeah, just by having to move it back, they had to remove some areas, and of course they're going to make some adjustments internally. But that's really a business decision that they have to make. As we require that they remove panels, push it back. Is it still viable for them? And so they went forward with the project after that. But you're exactly right. And the same thing happened with Raceways. Once a project is you get that first circulation, you get the notice of preparation, you get the first circulation, and the project looks like A. And then the community sees it, and they say, hey, this isn't going to work. It's very difficult then to communicate later that, okay, we scaled the project back. We saw it on Raceway, and we're going to be seeing it again on this project in Boron, unfortunately, because it's once you have that initial proposal, that's usually what is in people's minds moving forward. And so,
And I think that's what they're circulating.
Yeah, and if you look at where the project is now, and for those of you who aren't familiar with Boron, I apologize, but I know Mary Beth obviously is. This project's it would be on the south side of the railroad tracks. So the railroad tracks, we have about a 3.5 foot berm that the railroad tracks run in on. The project is behind that, and so it isn't right next to neighborhoods, and then the areas that aren't on the other side of the railroad tracks, that's where we required that half-a-mile buffer for the project to be moved back. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump off of solar on a couple of other things that are happening locally. One thing, the Tehachapi Loop Viewing Project that is now complete up here in Tehachapi. That was a partnership between the Friends of the Depot nonprofit and the County of Kern to build that project. Money was raised from the local area as well as some corporate partners, and so we're seeing our first tour buses that are coming in. And so that was the point, safety, and also economic development for the area. Let's bring more people in from outside, like Corey was talking about with Walmart. Let's bring more people from outside to spend money here in this community. Also, we have a development in the unincorporated area of Tehachapi. We have a P-Dubs is opening a new restaurant, a brewery, and also a bowling alley. Ever since I moved up here about 10, 11 years ago, I was like, man, we need a bowling alley in Tehachapi. So provided that everything moves forward, it looks like it is, the groundbreaking will happen very soon, so we'll have a bowling alley here in Tehachapi. So more people can come from the outside areas and come in and enjoy that as well. So I'll go ahead and close with that. Does anybody have any questions? All right, seeing none, thanks, Joe. You're right. Appreciate it.
So I won't take up too much time. Supervisor Scrivner did an amazing job covering a lot. One of the things that for us in District 1 that we're covering a lot of right now is our response to French fire in Kern River Valley area. From the daily updates that we have, we're just under 27,000 acres, 76% containment. So, and that is a true testament to our firefighting services, both at the county, state, and federal level, the partnerships that they have. That the Team 12 up there has been absolutely amazing. Philip's actually been up there quite a few times visiting with our new fire chief, Chief Duncan, who has really come in and taken over at a time where leadership was paramount, and he's done an amazing job. The stage we're at right now is trying to formulate a position where we can start putting resources together for our constituents. We have been, in this case, very blessed with no human losses at this point. So that is of course, a blessing. We have had structure damages and loss, so that will be something that we will partner with our local groups to help our constituents with, whether it's state or federal assistance that we can get them in touch with. We can see what is available to them. The other issue, the other kind of calendar item that we have coming up is redistricting. And what I really want to encourage folks to do is visit the county website to get in touch with our resources on this process, to kind of familiarize yourself. This is a very interesting time period that we're going through right now as a state and the county, because I don't know if you guys are aware, there's maybe a recall going on. So the timing of the recall, also with the timing of the state legislature, is coming down to its final days for the legislative cycle. For those of you that may or may not be familiar with that, that means by Friday, end of day, if the bill hasn't passed through both chambers of the legislature, it dies for this cycle. And I say with the asterisk for the cycle because that just means it can come up next time. So we really dodged a bullet this year with some of the legislation that was passed or pushed through. There were some legislation dealing with mandates in the private sector that didn't gain muster. There were also some that we're looking at that may change our zoning process for local government, so we'll have to keep an eye on those. But if you haven't caught on and kind of watched it yet, you've got an end of legislature this week, and then the governor has 30 days to sign it. So that in between there's that recall again. So the redistricting process for us is going to put us up against understanding the legislation that's going to come down for the end of the year, and as well as trying to see where that's going to put us as far as our services for the coming years. So if you haven't been in contact with me before, please see me. I will give you my contact information. I'd love to put you in contact with our information and resources for redistricting. We have had and will continue to have public input on this. That's imperative. We have to, and by law, under both the state and federal Voting Rights Act. So for us right now, the outlook is still December 15th is when all of that has to be decided, and the maps have to be turned in or approved. And so that's going to be both public and private maps that are going to be collaborative. The last time we went through this, there was litigation. Not sure if that'll happen this time, if it's part of the process. I will say, in talking with Supervisor Peters, he does not foresee too much of a change to the maps the way that they are. So the way that it's looking, because of the December 15th date that redistricting is going to have to be decided by, as well as the end of the year, it's going to make the Board of Supervisors have to go through that and finalize that process pretty quickly. So that's why I say make sure if you're part of a group or want to have some input on this process, please, I invite you all to do so. We love public input, despite what you may have been told. We love public input. And so please see me, because I'd love to put you in contact with our resources so that you can be able to do that. Does anybody have any questions? Anything I've covered, anything I've not covered?
I'll just say, Joe, this year, the county has a redistricting map app, so it's really cool, so you can actually go, and if you have an idea about what the district should look like, you can draw your own map, and it'll make sure the populations match, and then you can submit it when you submit your comments. So it's pretty cool.
Yes. Thank you, Russell, I appreciate that. So we have, this is what I mean with these resources that we have. The public input option has increased over time, and that's why I say we actually encourage that, because whether you're doing it, there's other constituents in the district who are, so you get your fair share of the say, and you all should. So, any other questions, comments, anything I can help with? If I haven't covered anything and you want to ask me for something privately, please see me. I've got cards to hand out. If not, I've got plenty of other ways of getting in contact, so if you don't know who I am, let's fix that. All right.
Thanks, Joe.
Ambassador, no. I'm the External Affairs Manager and Communities Manager for Rio Tinto US Forex. So I'm out there in Boron, and we're doing a lot of exciting things. We're the largest open pit mine in the state of California. We've been in operation almost 150 years. And so, we've just been operational, and while we may not be one of those startups, we are still looking for employees. So, we have high-paying jobs. So I know Zach talked about the oil industry, but we have some really good paying jobs at our entry-level positions. But we're also looking for people with STEM characteristics. And so we need those as well. Just, we've been mining for a long time, borates, but just a little while ago, we found lithium in our waste stream. And so we are really smart people are figuring out how to do that cost effectively. And so in October, we go to Rio Tinto and say, hey, we'd like to do a production plant. And so we anticipate that to be approved. And so we'll have 300 additional jobs.
Wow.
That will be producing lithium for the battery market. And we anticipate we'll be the largest lithium producer in the United States. So, boron isn't boring. We're doing all kinds of cool things. Just yesterday, we joined with the community in giving $130,000 to help reconstruct their community swimming pool. And added to that, Senator Grove got me $200,000 from the state. Yay, we might as well get something from them, to actually add to that 130 because that pool needs a lot of work. And so we're extremely excited about that. So I'll have you all invited next May when we open it again, and we'll all jump in. A lot of people want to come out to the mine and visit. We are under MSHA regulations not to just allow anyone to come in and just walk around. So, but we do once a year have a state of the business, and our state of the business is scheduled for March 15, 2022. And that's when we invite you out and serve you some lunch and put you in a bus, and you get to go to the bottom of the pit. It's once a year, so if you miss it, then you'll have to wait till 2023. So if you're interested, please let me know. I will put you on the invitation list. For those who have been, it's worth it, right? Oh, yeah. Right, Lit?
You let us out of the pit,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
You have to climb.
Richard has been, and he's been to the bottom of the pit, and he wears a hat, and it's pretty cool. So I think, District 1, you should come over to District 2 and go to the bottom of the pit.
Bring your steel-toe shoes, right?
Yes, steel-toed boots, long pants, don't wear a dress. Christina, oh, she's gone. Anyway, don't wear a dress, and wear long sleeves, and it's really a lot of fun. And March is it's still pretty cool. It's just on that cusp of turning into boron summer. So, any questions? Yes?
Very good. What was the date again for the tour?
March 15.
Perfect. I'm interested, but I'll come up and remind you later.
Okay. If let's sign up people. Email address is perfect. Anyone else? Okay. Thanks. I always like to keep boron in this mix of East Kern Economic Alliance because we are still in the top 10 taxpayers in the county, and once we produce lithium, I think our position will increase.
I agree.
Well, the lithium's kind of a startup, right?
Yeah, touche. There you go. Yes, lithium is kind of a startup. You're correct. Another cool thing is we're partnering with a company that will then take after we extract lithium, we'll take that waste stream and use it for a new product. So that's cool too.
Everything's going well.
Yep.
Great, well, we look forward to because you have hosted our East Kern meetings, so.
Yes.
Great.
I have.
Yeah.
We haven't done one at my visitor center in a while.
Good cookies.
And good cookies. We bring good cookies. There's something going on in Boron. And most people think I work for the fire department.
Well, borax is not flammable, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, great.
And it's not on, Prop 65 list
Okay.
or anything like that, so it's good.
Great, well, thank you. Thanks, Mary Beth. And we have Cal City.
Okay, consider this a news flash of reality TV from California City. We are creating jobs, but in a unique manner. We had a management decision this morning that we are having a change in the finance department and a change in the public works department. What's going on? I have not a clue. I participated in a closed session last night, an hour and a half. We didn't talk anything about this. We went to a council meeting. We are bringing in some professional service contracts to help us with our budget, which we're a little bit behind on, help us with our planning department, which we're very backed up. We were going forward until the text started this morning and we find out that we had a management decision. So we are creating jobs in Cal City also, just in an unusual manner.
Good sense of humor. That's
What else do you
awesome.
do?
I love it. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, we have Edward, we can have an Edwards report.
Edwards report.
What do you classify, is it classified information?
No, just, so my position out there is I'm the small business professional, so I'm the SVP. There's the director above me, and due to COVID, a lot of people have been doing 100% telework, and so a lot of people have actually moved out. And so my director's in Las Vegas, Cindy Randall, and so she would actually be here right now, but I'm the one that's just underneath her. So her and I, our whole position out there is connecting small businesses to the government. You would think it would be really easy getting a job with the government. It's not, right? And so we're out there to help teach people how to, solicit, do SAM.gov, how to get a SIVR, a SITR, all these different acronyms. And so my position out there currently right now is just overlooking contracting. So before my position right now is a contracting officer. And so basically I'm the guy that does, the contracts and actually signs off. And so I'm just looking over, it's called a DD 2579. And so that is just showing like, hey, are we following all FAR regulations, FAR, AFARs, SIVR, AFARs, PGI, the list goes on and on. And so what I'm doing is just making sure like, hey, FAR Part 19, there's 2 small businesses, right, and a large business. Well, because it's under SAT, which is 250,000 or below, it's automatic set aside for an SBSA for a small business. I could go on and on, but right now we're meeting all of our goals right now. So for socioeconomic goals, except for I believe it's HubZone. HubZone is a hard one to catch and get, but like all our socioeconomic categories, small businesses, we're getting STB, SOB, small disadvantaged veteran-owned small business. We have HubZones, which we're not getting. Women-owned small businesses, we are getting, we're meeting all of our goals right now. And our other one is small disadvantaged business, which is the SDB, which is 5% of all contracts should go to them. And so right now, we're at end of fiscal year. Our fiscal year obviously ends September 30th. So it's extremely busy right now. They're trying to get all their awards done. A lot of 8A contractors are getting awarded too. If you guys don't know what 8A contractor is, basically it's a side of a SDB, so we can do direct awards up to 4.5 million straight to a contractor. So right now, over at Arnold Air Force Base, it's called First Look. And so this is going to come out, and First Look is called, we're doing a GPC, so Government Purchase Card. And so what we're telling our contracting officers is, don't just go to Huntsville, Alabama and buy something from there, or just Google and find somebody and do it right. So they want us to look at Cal City, they want us to look at Boron, they want us to look at Tehachapi first. And so we only have, I want to say only 13 companies that have directly reached out to me and said, hey, we're interested in government work. And so that's my whole goal, is to find small businesses. So if you guys know any small businesses, you should have them directly contact me and provide their capability statement to me, because we have a vendor database, and that vendor database is a huge Excel chart, and it shows all the small businesses. And literally, like 17 of them are from Bakersfield and Ridgecrest we have out there. But yeah, they should contact me. They'll get on there on the list. And so our contract officers will be like, hey, I have this requirement that's under 250,000. I can do a GPC order for them. And let me see what's on our vendor database. Hey, there's this company in Ridgecrest, I can do it. Okay, cool. We'll just slide our card, done. They don't have to do the whole contract spiel and go through wire workflow, which is somewhat of a pain in the butt. A lot of contractors say just getting paid within 30 days of the contract award. But I know that is way more than everyone needed.
Well, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
economic development is
That's
the
right.
indirect, and induced, so
Yeah.
if you're not using our local suppliers, and they're not aware of that kind of, that supply chain.
So they
that's a
want us
lot.
to use our money here first before going out to like San Diego, right? San Diego always hits me up and they want all our money. Not really, but like a lot of companies are coming from down there. And so, yeah, if you guys know any small business.
Yeah, do you have
I highly
any
recommend.
information I can send out to?
Yeah,
about that front?
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right there, right here, Lydia Cheney.
Your card.
Okay, definitely. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
I'll give you my card. and you can
Yeah,
send it-
I would
I'll send
definitely
it
reach out to us. A lot of people don't know we exist out there, but we're out there, so. Okay.
Sure. Great, thanks, Matt.
No worries.
There you go.
We have, let's see, Kern River Valley. Still smoky out there?
Actually, this morning it was incredibly clear. So,
Good to hear.
so I'm Justin Powers. I'm from Kern River Valley. I'm the owner of Kernville Cowork, which is in the heart of Kernville. You can almost see it, the page on the front of the Kearney. Yeah, so we've got some good news and bad news, this time of year. One thing we did see over COVID is we did see a lot of people starting to get acquainted with the outdoors. Not a big surprise. We're not allowed to get on airplanes. Nobody wanted to go to big cities, and so everybody was coming up and discovering our Kern River and Lake Sabella and all the amazing mountain biking and hiking and fishing and everything we have up there. Though we kind of got hit with a triple whammy. So obviously, I believe you've all heard that we're in a drought right now. Our whitewater industry is fairly highly dependent on the amount of water coming down from Mount Whitney. And so when there's no snow on Mount Whitney, it's kind of hard to run full rafts of people down the river. So our volume was really good during the period that we actually did have a good solid whitewater season. That's showing that a lot more people are coming up and getting involved in the outdoors. Downside is it was a very short, truncated season. Moving on to kind of other effects of the drought and climate change is fire. So we had the French fire, which I'm sure you've all kind of seen the news. I was kind of I couldn't actually see any of this fire. It was the smokiest fire I've seen in a long time. Usually you can see the mountain on fire, and I couldn't even see the mountain. There was so much smoke. But for those of you who aren't really familiar, it started up in a somewhat remote area. There are some houses up there, and it started burning up to Alta Sierra, and then it took a hard right straight down into Wofford Heights. And I have to say, our firefighters are absolutely amazing. And I have a whole family of firefighters, but even without that, there's been a ton of work, and something that actually had a large part to do with that, I believe, is there's been a lot of investment over the last several years in fuel reduction in that specific area where the fire went through. There's every firefighter I've talked to, every expert I've been talking to over the last 5 years, I've talked to a lot of them. When I ask them what their worst case scenario is, it's a fire up on Alta Sierra, taking it right down into Wofford Heights. And so they put a lot of money, there's been a lot of grants and a lot of work put into fuel reduction to try to make that a little bit more manageable.
Fuel reduction means you get rid of the brush, right?
Yeah, so there's a large amount of bark beetle infestation and dead trees up there, and those basically just become, when the fire gets into bark beetle infestation areas, it basically turns into a 60-foot grass fire. And not a whole lot that the firefighters can do when it gets into that. So a lot of dead tree removal, a lot of brush removal. They are doing pile burns up there. I don't think they weren't doing any broadcast burns, but for our local governments, any money that we can invest in fuel reduction is tantamount. That's huge, and I guarantee that saved Wofford Heights. Having seen the Erskine fire back in 2016 and how it ripped through a community, we were this close to that happening. And so I'm very thankful to the county, thankful to our federal resources. That was really phenomenal. And by the way, you mentioned you're working for resources. There's 12 homes that were destroyed. Are you connected with the VOAD?
I know Georgiana is heading up a lot of that. That's who, she's the emergency services guru, and she's got all that.
We've also, so we have seen, well, and then the third whammy that's hitting us is all of the U.S. Forest Service national forests are all shut down right now because of the wildfire risk and because of the difficulty in evacuating people when there is a fire. So we have seen a large drop in visits to Kernville over the last few weeks, understandable, first because of the smoke, then because of the fire, and now because of the Forest Service closures. On to some more of the good news. We've been having a lot more open air events, a lot more rodeos at the Kernville Fairgrounds. And I also want to introduce a program that we're partnering with Seed Corps Foundation on called Co-Starters. But first, just a little bit about what Kernville Co-work is. We are, it's a shared office space where people that work for different companies that do work the same way can all come together and work. And one of the reasons we built Kernville Co-work was to bring together, was to bring in people that are in those high demand jobs. Maybe they're working for companies in San Francisco, LA, Silicon Valley. We want them to come and work and live in the Kern River Valley, keep working for their old jobs, keep getting their paychecks, but spend them here. And eventually we'll have a nice foundation of talent that can really create a breeding ground for entrepreneurship and startups. So we're bringing in a program called Co-Starters, and I've got a bunch of flyers up here. And this is in partnership with the Seed Corps Foundation. Co-Starters, I don't know where they originate out of, but it's a 10 to 12 week program. We're going to teach all of these startup essentials. So things like building the business plan and understanding your customer, to how to do things like marketing, legal, accounting, all that stuff. And it's really kind of a peer-led system. So we're going to be doing that in early 2022. We don't have a date set yet, but we're just kind of starting to find stakeholders and build relationships and get that started. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, we'll be sending that out through Kai.
Valley area was Cheryl's Diner. And something that happened where folks saw that there was a need to help feed our first responders, our firefighters. It was $9,000, I think it was almost $10,000 last time I checked. Cheryl's Diner people donated money so that the firefighters could eat. And this was mostly local from the area. This was people who were going through potentially losing their homes and being evacuated, and we're still making sure. So Kern River Valley is a true testament to what it is to be a community member in this area.
Yeah, and like I said, we went through the Erskine fire in 2016. We lost about 300 homes then, and so we're when these fires happen, we come together. So it's I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mojave, I know Bill Deaver wasn't able to make it, and Todd Linder, the head of the Space Board, is out of town. So any Mojave news?
It was warm out there today.
Okay, we will.
Waiting for Frank Boiler.
I guess that gives Ridgecrest more time.
Well, we
got several Ridgecrest.
Which one do you want first?
Well, they get to speak to the city. I get to sit.
Well, please feel free to jump in. I'm going to keep it kind of short. So our race communications, they are working on installing the fiber optic technology for the city limits, and they're also going to have a local office there at the old Matrix building. So we're looking forward to that build out happening. They're going to start offering services as they develop. So
Learning all the hard lessons here, so you're welcome.
Yeah.
Hitting all of our lines first, so they know what not to do in Ridgecrest.
I'll come to you then.
Yeah, no,
I'll come to you
you guys
first.
are going to be smooth as can be. We're getting the road the bumps here.
That's the idea. We
No,
did that on purpose.
exactly.
No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
No,
So race is going on. A couple of updates on some of our just ongoing developments. We have a couple housing projects. The Town Place Suites by Marriott. They are currently waiting for corrections on energy, electrical, and structure reviews. Same thing for the Mojave View Apartments, which is the affordable housing project that's going in on Norma Street. Also waiting on corrections, electrical, energy, and structure reviews. The two fast food or casual dining places in the Oasis development, Chipotle and Starbucks, are both on track with construction. They're on the shelves right now, but those are tracking well and potentially could be open by the end of the year. We'll see on the timeline. Panda Express is nearly complete. Potentially to be done by the end of October, but definitely by the end of the year is what we're thinking. RVs is awaiting parking lot permit review and sign install permit review for inspection. So once that's complete, they should be more or less ready to open. And then we have Dutch Brothers, the coffee place. Their building permit was issued on September 7th, so just a few days ago, and they are beginning construction now. So that's kind of where we're at with our current development. And then we're also getting ready for the ICSC conference in December. So working on strategic planning with our economic development committee there, and trying to just get some ideas ready for recruitment. So when we can go to that conference, we'll be ready. That's kind of all I had, unless Eric or Dave, you want to add anything?
I'll add something. Y'all know 2 years ago we got kind of shook up. and the two, so to speak, and the two epicenters for that earthquake were on the China Lake base. And I've reported to this group before, there are some new faces, but that we had money authorized and appropriated totaling around $4 billion, which is unprecedented, to rebuild China Lake. All but one last contract of the major military construction projects of that $4 billion, which the military construction projects are $2.6 billion or so roughly of it. All but one had been awarded, and work is already ongoing on site. In particular, that's a huge base, 1.1 million acres. In particular, the major airfield reconstruction and reconstruction of the hangars, build-ups, all the center main common support facilities, those contracts are all awarded, and workers on base and in the community building it up. And on the eastern side, your eastern side, that's where the propulsion labs and energetics work is, and that's one of the last contracts to get awarded. It'll be awarded this month. It's all on time and ahead of schedule, which is also unprecedented, particularly in the government. Sorry, guys.
There's still plenty of time.
Yeah, no, and that's in spite of all the supply delays because of COVID that's resulted in what they are not running, just in time purchasing. They purchased well in advance. The contractors that won, these are big international global contractors, U.S. based, of course. And that's the third part of the story I want to tell you is because they're international and cost is obviously important to them because they're for-profit entities, they want local as much as possible workforce. So they really mind with our help. We had a number of you in the room help also make contact all over Kern to get a workforce, and each one of your communities has workers up there. For instance, the temporary housing camp where some of the employees are concentrated, just the camp itself, to run the camp is 50 employees. That outfit is 100% local Kern County. That's the kind of benefit that is accruing across all of Kern from what happened at China Lake. The other comment I wanted to make is that race communications broadband that we're getting is another valuable thing. You all know about retention. We have a world-class workforce. Some of those folks compete at Google and those type Bay Area companies come down and try to cherry pick our folks all the time. Retention, having good wideband, which the town wants. Should have, and it's underserved and it's crappy, and I will say that personally, it's crappy at my house. That will do wonders when we get it, and I think the city negotiated pretty close to 100%. So thank you, Tehachapi, for helping train them.
They did a ton of stuff. So they used to be USDA grant funded almost exclusively out in the unincorporated areas. Phenomenal speeds. I mean, some people living at the top of the mountains in Bear Valley got better speeds than people downtown.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, because of the fiber. So getting them, they got other investments, and the fact that they ultimately want to come to Ridgecrest and Tehachapi right away to wire us up is awesome.
Yeah, the irony of it, is Digital 395 runs right through the middle of the town, and we had sucks. They're going to fix that. Thank you. Any questions?
I'm gonna jump in there anyway. I was going to make member comments, but since you're talking about it, I want to go ahead and first commend Tehachapi. our city council went through some serious changes and election changes and all those wonderful things, but we are loving basically everything you guys do, and we are trying to steal at random.
Well, we have a great relationship with your city manager. Ron's been awesome.
Tehachapi, I think, is brilliant, and I just give you guys incredible credit for doing that stuff. The two nice people to my left didn't mention probably the number one challenge that the community is facing right now, which is our water issue. If you're not aware, Ridgecrest has a king-sized water problem. Is that a good way to describe it?
That's probably underestimated.
And I pray your communities don't go through it, but we're probably going to end up being a pilot child for the water wars to come in the state for the years to come. Hopefully that's on our ending reputation. And then the last one is I want to make sure Dave was clear that we're not running concentration camps.
I didn't use that.
He said they're concentrated in camps. And I went, oh my God.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But we have an incredible economic surge happening just based on workforce. Just from the number of bodies and the amount of workforce traffic, we're seeing positives across the board and everything but our TOTs, our overnights. Shockingly, Ridgecrest had almost no fall off economically from COVID. If you took the entire year and you average it out, there was virtually zero change and an increase. Again, comments are thank you for having us here. Thank you for the continued efforts towards East Kern. Lots to learn and see what you guys are all doing. That's all I have. Ridgecrest we're really going to start a change in our focus towards. I think this council has a mindset that we're not going to try and stay secret anymore, just naval-based. We have to be a tourism hub for the Eastern Kern side. Driving, as people are driving north to Mammoth, people are driving into Mount Whitney, into Death Valley, into those areas, and I think we're getting conscientiously aware of it. I'm sure it's been brought up at East Kern Economic Alliance before that there was a proposed casino for Ridgecrest. My exact answer, for anybody who's asking, is I don't know any more than you do.
Well, we have a Hard Rock casino is coming to Kern County.
They have 5 more months to secure financing, and then probably I would say that issue is dead. But otherwise, we remain positive and hopeful. But who knows?
Well, Eric, how about because I know we're talking about housing costs, and Tehachapi, you guys are over 400,000 inventory, very record lows. Ridgecrest, your price points have been.
I've been 30. I think the estimate when I took office last year was that we would see about a 38% increase over the next 24 months. I will say we've easily seen at least a 15% or greater increase this year already. Inventory remains low, demand remains high. I think that I would say that the sentiment amongst Ridgecrestians is that we're actually seeing the price adjustment from still going all the way back to 10 and 11. Coming back into the area, because we have the same thing so many other communities do, where people are leaving San Jose, San Francisco. Yeah. They're selling out 600 and buying into 3. And they can get more space and more opportunity, and that's driving our inventory lower. Housing new startups is probably our biggest weakness. I don't know if that's a weakness of our city, if I want to put the finger on that, or it's just a weakness of where our developments are. When you're talking about the maps, I'm like, geez, I'd be climbing all over myself if I had 700 homes under construction. But that's not what's happening.
Multifamily is the particular need.
Yeah, it's a desperate need.
It doesn't pencil out in the state of California right now. Because we need market rate, not below market rate housing, and there's no assistance for that, and it doesn't pencil out for the developers because the housing market is low enough so they can make more money elsewhere.
And it's improving. I mean, it's going to continue to improve. I think, again, over the next 2 years, we've seen a substantial change. But I think you're talking about middle of nowhere. we all feel it sometimes out here in East Kern. And it's growing, but it's not happening overnight. Wish we had more also.
Yeah.
If you want to send 700 our way.
It depends what day it is, because some days you want to send them all the way.
The tiny homes, right? You got the tiny homes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks. Oh,
Uh-oh.
Two things. Awesome job with the city, with the Historical Society.
Oh.
New buildings, lots of fun things happening there. And did I see right the hard date for the opening of the visitor center?
Yeah, hard date for the visitor center. If you've never been out to Ridgecrest for the Petrichor Festival, that is the first weekend of November. The Thursday before the festival is the current scheduled grand opening celebration for the 18th California Welcome Center in the state, which will be housed in Ridgecrest. We're excited about it. ARP certainly is helping them get over the final hurdles of getting it done. But again, I would say those are the ideas that we're trying to focus on is, I don't know how to say this in this group because people don't know me. If Christina's here, she'd really understand. I've known Christina since I was a 27-year-old kid. The community's changing demographically. I don't know if you guys are having similar experiences, but our community was such an old secret city community, and its demographics are shifting. Oh, I could talk for an hour, so please stop me. If those are my professional jobs, I'm the CEO for a federal credit union over there. So I understand wealth transfer in financial services, and we've continuously seen wealth transfer occurring as our ages are changing, as our demographics have been shifting. We're seeing older money move out of the community and newer money come into the community in more middle-income families, different demographics. And I think that's finally cracking the old adage of the secret city mindset that Ridgecrest had for so many decades. And with that crack, we're focusing in on the tourism. We have a land annexation project that we're working on to expand the city boundaries all the way to 395. Things like that would draw the traffic into the community, because if anybody's ever driven over there, if you drive down 395, you could drive right past Ridgecrest without even knowing it's there.
Right.
That's what Ridgecrest was known for. We would like to desperately change that, because tourism tax dollars and those things are the key to the long-term fiscal health of our community. So. Anybody else want to talk for an hour? Come on down. I can chat for an hour.
Just one thing, for those of you that may not remember, if you're not old enough, being one of the old folks, the origin of the Secret City moniker was actually applied to Channel 8 when there was no Ridgecrest, and the entire workforce of just under 10,000 folks lived on the base, and it was doing classified stuff as it is now. And thus it was known inside the Navy and a lot of places as Secret City. And as the civilians were forced in the 70s to move off, that's where they took that mentality of Secret City. Outside the city. You know, what you see here, what you do here stays, your lips stays closed. Secret City, because we didn't like to have a lot of that advertised. So that's the history behind the moniker.
like Las Vegas, you mean?
Yeah.
But except it's different flavor.
Different type of secret.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna film you, John.
Yes, please.
Okay, do you want me to have the cat filter?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Make sure it's off. You can set it on the ground.
Oh, I
You don't have to
can.
keep holding it.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yep, perfect.
How's my profile, okay?
Looking good. Good, nice makeup.
Roseman had a great month. Our trustees of our school district decided to refinance $10 million in general obligation bonds, the effect of which will lower the tax rates for every house in Roseman. So everybody is happy. And we opened 3 businesses, opened the doors, new employees, new places to shop, new advertisers for the Roseman News. And these are Starbucks, cars there all day long, every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts, new, makes it the third auto parts store in Roseman. And finally, a grocery outlet, locally owned by people who moved to Roseman, actually own the store. And so we're thriving. And that's all I have.
Great. Anyone want to chime in? Yes. Oh, Jeremy.
Want to go first, Mary Beth?
Yes, you may.
You know, I was going to ask, do you want to go first?
No, you can go first.
Okay. So, real quick, like I mentioned when I introduced myself, the organization that I started about a year ago, one of the big initiatives is to organize nightlife and weekend activities out here in Aerospace Valley. And the kickoff event is actually happening this weekend. So, in cooperation with the Cal City Chamber of Commerce and Alexia, and with Ted Hodgkinson from Mojave, we're going to do some stargazing tomorrow night out at the Desert Tortoise Preserve, followed by some outdoorsy activity in the night and then the next morning. And then there's some rock climbing and perhaps some hot springs soaking. And all of the details are on our Aerospace Valley Futures Facebook page, which is basically at Aerospace Valley Futures all together. So Aerospace Valley and then Futures with an S all together. That's our handle for Facebook, and all the details for the event are on there. We'll be organizing a lot more over the coming months. The whole goal is to try and make life more fun, make new connections for all of the civilian, in particular aerospace personnel out here, so that they enjoy their life and they don't want to leave.
And people, miners.
What's that? And miners too.
Miners.
Sorry. I should call it Aerospace and Mining Valley.
Exactly.
When you say nightlife, I'm thinking is this like Coachella stuff or?
Well, that eventually too. I think
you're going out in the desert, right?
I think there's some cool opportunities to do like.
It's not like
cool opportunities to actually do festival type stuff in and around Cal City in the future, personally.
So you're going to be out like in the middle.
When I say nightlife,
Yes.
When I say weekend, I'm talking about outdoors activities right now, but there's some off-roading stuff we were thinking about doing in the future, hiking in addition to rock climbing and anything that people want to do. Like, the idea is to make activities that people want to come to so that they make more friends and enjoy, that you want to live here rather than have to live here. You know?
The challenge has been to make folks aware of them.
That's what I was going to
East
say,
Kern.
exactly.
That's what Jeremy's been doing.
Yeah.
And support him in this effort. I think it's really important. We've got such focused technology now, it's almost impossible to put something out that everybody hears. You've got to go down so many venues, and so you've been trying to solve that for us.
I've been working on it. One step forward,
Yeah.
1.5 steps back. 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back.
This is great for recruiting and retention in the aerospace and mining industry.
Well, we have people that live in Cal City, Mojave, Rosamond, Ridgecrest, Tehachapi, Boron. So they're everywhere, and they're always looking for things.
Yeah.
And that's one of the complaints of Eastern Kern is there's nothing to do. So they'll get in their, they'll do off-roading because they do that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can just know some of these things, I'll get the information out
This is
to
like
mine.
the pilot thing.
Okay.
This is a
All
pilot
good.
adventure this weekend.
Uh-huh.
So even if everybody showed up, I wouldn't have the capacity to accommodate them all anyway, Mary Beth.
What time does it start? Midnight?
8:30 tomorrow night at the Dennis Tortoise. But all the details, like I said, are just go to our Facebook page, Aerospace Aerospace Valley Futures. All the details are on there. Future events, I will get more widely announced to everybody with more time. Sorry about the short deadline.
But I think you're really smart, and if I told everybody and everybody came, I wouldn't be able to do a good event. You want to be able to do a good event. Each time, build, learn, build.
That's the idea. So
Bill-
thank you for letting me go first.
You're welcome. The only thing I was going to say, Corey, one of the biggest complaints at the mine is they want to live in Tehachapi and they can't find any place to live. So I'm so excited about that because they're like, if they're not here, they can't go see the house, et cetera, et cetera. And so you know?
And we've had we've had, obviously, you know, we've had housing built outside the city
Yep.
limits, but a lot of folks come into the area, they're like, what's a septic tank? You know, they have no idea.
No.
Tank, he's like, you're lying to me. I said, no, this is how it works. He's like, it just stays in your yard, and I was like, yeah, ultimately. So they want sewer, they want curbs, sidewalks, street lights, they want some city services. They want the
You know,
small
some of
town
us
to
do
go-
live in the unincorporated area, and we deal with our.
Yeah, like, I live in the unincorporated
Some of us
area.
need to
I
do
like
what
it.
it
That's my spot. Yeah, we deal with septic tanks, but they want, a lot of the newer folks coming in, they want that, like.
Especially
less maintenance.
millennials,
Yes,
especially,
less
you know.
maintenance, more
yeah.
comforts, and so that's why I'm happy to finally get some stuff that's on the ground.
No, I'm excited, and,
Send them our way when they come to work at EKEDC.
you know, I think there's a relationship, because there's a real disconnect, they struggle with trying to get in here, so we need to fix that.
Great, pal. Any Edison updates, Jay?
Well, just briefly, a lot of the things I've been working on have been centered around wildfire mitigation work. We had some discussions. We're doing a major project in Fraser Park. Look for some extended outages in the Cummings Valley. Our focus is Bear Valley Springs. This year, generally speaking, we shifted our focus from a more holistic view to the 72 circuits that have been impacted by PSPS in the past. And Bear Valley Springs, I think Golden Hills are probably the two areas here that we're focusing on. And so there'll be cover conductor projects going in there. Thankfully, with the feedback from the city manager in the city, we did get the work done on the Viento circuit, which covers all of the commercial district. And so we haven't seen any PSPS on that. So cover conductor programs do work. French fire, another issue. We had two 66 lines, sub-transmission lines that went down as a result of that. Also, when you get up in the Alta Sierra district, a lot of that stuff was old, and the conductors were with insulators on trees. The trees are no longer there, so we've established a laydown yard up there once the fire officials let us in, and we'll be rebuilding those circuits, going back with poles, covered conductor up there. I would probably be remiss if I didn't mention Cal City.
You would. We're creating jobs.
There's been, that's right. There's been quite a bit of effort by SCE, and if you're frustrated by the pace of things that are moving, trust me, if you sat on the conference calls where this was being discussed, you'd be equally as frustrated. But I will tell you, you probably saw about a week and a half ago, there was a whole group of folks that drove all the alternative lines for the 115 lines. They've got that narrowed down to 2, and we'll be coming back to the city asking for some help when we go to license those projects. It is significant, and most of this you know because of the town hall that Jay put together. And I guess I'll leave it there. That's probably the big thing, wildfire mitigation in California City.
So I shouldn't tell you I got a text about 15 minutes ago, no power.
Tell Jay.
Did you really? We have work to do in California.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else for the good order?
Before you leave, if you'd like to stop, our farmers market's going on Green Street, so it's just off Tash Boulevard.
Oh, great.
Last couple weeks about it, but it's happening right now. So.
Awesome.
And if anyone wants to give me their email address that I don't have, I'll just leave this little piece of paper up here and just put it in, okay?
See you soon. See you in 2 months.